Well, it's another sweltering day in COVID-19 land. I don't know what to say anymore. Dating this thing because none of these things are ever put up in any semblance of order, just when I flip over the SIM card to my producers. Today is July 23rd. Summer's halfway over. Not that it was anything to fucking write home about, but be it as it may, it's 420 again. Dedicated to the guy who called me an asshole, of course, because anybody who smokes weed at 67 years old has to be an asshole. So, okay, I'm an asshole. Sometimes you just can't get this shit to burn right. But anyway, we're going to talk about a couple films today, starring none other than Jim Brown. Sort of goes with either a previous episode or an episode yet to come about blaxploitation films. But in 1970, year of my lamented graduation from West Orange High School, two Jim Brown films came out that year. One was what people took to be a spaghetti western, El Condor. Now, El Condor was marketed as a spaghetti western because Jim Brown and Lee Van Cleef both starred in it. It was directed by John Gilarian and was shot in Spain. It also starred Patrick O'Neill, Elijah Cook Jr., and Mariana Hill. They had built this big castle. You see, Larry Cohen wrote the screenplay, and they wanted this big castle, and they built this really big fucking castle, which was so big that they actually used it in a bunch of other films. Two that come to mind are Conan the Barbarian and A Reason to Live, Reason to Die, another spaghetti western. This, opened up with Jim Brown chained to Elijah Cook Jr., and this is before the credits rolled, and there was a rattlesnake coming across the ground there. And Elijah Cook Jr. is playing this older character, and he's alluding to this, fortress of El Condor with all the gold in it and this and that and the other thing, while Luke, Jim Brown's character, is sawing at his chains with a rock. So they get called to the warden's office, and there's some kind of pardon in line for Luke if he does something or whatever. So at that point, he snaps the chain off, shoves the pardon down the warden's throat, and escapes out the back window. The old convict is yelling, "No, I can't go with you. Just go, and grab some of that gold for me." Well, that was Elijah Cook Jr.'s sort of a cameo, because then the credits rolled. Luke finds this old prospector, Giroux, in a bar, bragging about this, little gold thing that he found, and he's surrounded by a bunch of your stereotypical Mexican bandits, who basically, two of them were spaghetti western regulars, Ricardo Paluchis and Charlie Bravo. And of course, Giroux is Lee Van Cleef. Now, it's not the Lee Van Cleef we're all familiar for, the suave, deadly, what they call angel-eyed, cold-eyed, gun-sight-eyed killer. This is like a sort of departure for Lee, because he's playing basically a gold-crazed desert rat who drinks a lot. So his new buddies buy him some liquor, but then follow him back to the gold mine. So he's like sitting there enjoying his vino, and he sees these people come riding in. Well, of course, this major gunfight shoots with him cursing them all out and crap, and then Luke shows up and starts talking about the gold, and then Giroux says, "Well, I killed all these people. You got to kill your share." So basically, the 4 or 5 bandits that survived Giroux's shooting are under a ledge, and Jim Brown shoots the ledge and crumbles on him and kills him. So now it's like we got to, get, to find this place, El Condor, and they go to a town, and they're trying to get supplies, and Giroux starts shoplifting a bit, which leads the two of them to get tarred and feathered and run out of town. Now, they need basically a small army to take El Condor, And Giroux claims he can get a bunch of Apaches. And he says, you know, the Apaches love me. I sell them whiskey that would make them blind, rifles that blow up in their faces, they just love me. Well, the chief of the Apaches is none other than Iron Eyes Cody, if you remember him from the pollution commercials back in the 70s where he's looking at all the crap in the river and a tear comes out of his eyes. Well, I don't think Iron Eyes was a legit Indian. I think he was more Italian, but be that as it may. They want to get into El Condor, which is commanded by Patrick O'Neill, playing a Mexican general. And what they do is, for a diversion, because the Apaches are getting, restless, Giroux has them attack this little stagecoach or whatever the fuck that is going to El Condor. So initially Luke is a little pissed off, but then when he sees what's in this woman's garments and things like that, he goes, great job, because they figure they're going to bring this thing in and get the inside scoop, of what's going on. So they get in after a few cannon shots blow them off track and stuff, and basically Luke is enamored with the Mariana Hill character, and Chavez, Patrick O'Neill character, isn't too happy about that. So he orders them all, the two of them, staked out to burn in the sun. And Giroux somehow gets one hand loose, and he's like going, water, water. I give these gold nuggets I have, in this pouch around my neck, for a glass of water, 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 water. So when the guard bends over to him to look for the gold, Giroux snakes the guy's gun out and shoots him and shoots the other one, so him and Luke are free. So this is all like, okay, now we have to get in, now we have to get the gold. And they stage this thing where basically they raid a barracks, and, the scumbag, officers round up all the village women to bring them in there so, they can be basically cannon fodder for the men to play with, for lack of better words. So they were all surprised and killed in bed for the simple reason that they need the uniforms to put on the Apaches to get in. So they run this whole gauntlet, and there's this huge battle. They attack, they get in, and the forces of the Mexican army are routed and leave. Chavez leaves. Also, the Apaches, who don't know about the gold except Iron Eyes Cody, finds that Giroux has found the gold. There's a whole big warehouse full of the gold down there, and of course Giroux winds up killing him to keep him quiet. The rest of the Apaches take off with all the stuff they've looted, including all the wagons needed to get the gold out. So now basically, and I forgot this one thing, that Mariana Hill does this incredible striptease, which got the film the R rating, because all the soldiers are watching her while the Apaches climb over the walls and then kill all the soldiers. So now the three of them are stranded at the fort, and all is not what it seems to be, because the gold had been shipped out months ago, and what's left is a bunch of lead bars that were painted gold. Of course, Giroux doesn't know this, and neither does Luke, until Chavez comes back and wants to duel for the woman, and him and Jim Brown have a protracted, saber fight where basically Chavez gets killed. Now, unfortunately, it's Luke against Giroux, because they think it's a double cross, and this is one of the films that the Van Cleef character actually gets killed at the end. And, of course, Luke gets the girl. Now, up until this point, Jim Brown was bouncing around, and I had said this before, with different actors to sort of shore him up, because Hollywood didn't really know what to do with a black leading man at that point. And I think that, I'm just speculating on this, because I had heard that, Lee was a mentor to some younger actors, and he was a true professional, so he might have gave Jim a few tips of maybe what he was doing, wrong, for lack of better words. But anyway, Jim sort of broke out of that whole thing, but the second film he was in that same year was a film called Tick, Tick, Tick. And it was sort of marketed as a blaxploitation film, but it was anything but. It was directed by Ralph Nelson, who did Soldier in the Rain, Soldier Blue, Wrath of God, and a bunch of other things. And this was more of, something that actually probably did happen back then, because of, the racist attitudes, and it was set in a southern town. And it opens up with Sheriff John Little, played by George Kennedy, who basically lost the election to Jim Price, which is Richard Brown's character. So this is his last day of being a sheriff. So he goes to this bar called Junior's, which is run by great character actor Dub Taylor. And it's full of hillbilly wild cards like Anthony James, Clifton James, and a couple other faces you'd recognize. And basically he's telling Junior about, you're using your back room for Klan activities, and some black boy got a beating back there, and I'm on to you, this and that. Well, they were frying an egg on the sidewalk out in front because it was so hot, and I guess they were taking bets at that. So Junior sort of blows it off, "It's your last day, basically, fuck you," and as Little walks out, he goes, "Hey, how does it feel to lose your job to a nigger?" Which sets the tone, because there is no segue when Sheriff Price takes over. Basically, the Little character hands him the badge and walks out. The two deputies, one which is Don Stroud, both quit on the spot. So Don Stroud's character wants to have a confrontation with the new sheriff. And he's over in a pool hall, openly wearing a gun and saying what's he going to do about it. Well, John Little finds out about this and decides to intervene a bit and goes in there and basically disarms Don Stroud. His character's Benji, so he disarms Benji, slaps him around a bit. Little isn't too happy about this and sort of Price isn't too happy about this and sort of warns Little not to do this again. So Little storms off a little pissed off. One deputy who applies for the job is played by Bernie Casey, who basically, his attitude is, now we can turn this around and whoop on some white people. Well, Price doesn't want this. He wants to, doesn't want a problem, doesn't want violence, is going to try to be a good sheriff, which Benji leaves in disgust. Well, another black gentleman gets the job, and he's set up by Don Stroud, and a beating's laid on him. Well, in the interim of all this shit, some rich white boy from another town around the bend is drunk and gets into an accident where a little girl is killed, a little white girl. Well, he refuses to be arrested by a black sheriff, and of course there's a foot chase, which, Price eventually gets him and drags him back. But see, his daddy is a bigwig in the next county. So even though he's allowed a phone call, he refuses to make the phone call for 3 days. He just sits there and lets it stew. In the interim, the Bernie Casey character raped the black girl. So now Price has to go arrest that guy, who's got a couple buddies with him, and a big fight breaks out, but basically he drags the character in and throws him in the jail across from the fucking white racist. Well, father shows up, get my son out of jail, I don't care. Oh, what happened? Did he run over a little black girl? No, he ran over a white girl. Don't care, you can't keep him here, we're getting him out. Guy's got a lawyer and everything. And he goes, oh, it's only you, how are you going to stop me from getting him out? Well, John Little shows up and picks up the deputy badge, and he goes, I'm going to stop you from getting him out. All right, so now they got a deputy. But the father is going to come back en masse with a bunch of rednecks and basically tree the town and get his son out of jail. Well, Benji's gloating over this whole thing, walks into Junior's and yanks the cord out of the jukebox and confronts Clifton James about, this and that, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And James grabs him by the throat and goes, you owe me 10 cents. Here's what he says, that was my song I was playing, you owe me 10 cents. And Benji threatens to kick him out of the Klan, this and that and the other thing, but something else is brewing in the other guy's head. So John Little brings Price to the bar and says that Price has to ask this of you. And he tells the whole thing about basically there's an army coming in to treat a town, and I have 12 black deputies. I would like 12 white deputies. Well, no one moves. So Little looks at him, Price looks at Little, we're on our own, we got 12 guys, let's do what we got to do. So there's only one way to get into town, and that's across a bridge. So they form a skirmish line on their side of the bridge. Well, they see this long line of cars coming from the other direction, and they also see another line of cars coming from the town. And they're like, okay, now we got a huge problem. Well, That line of cars is led by the Clifton James character, who has them all armed, and he goes, you, take positions up between these black deputies here. And, of course, that's the stalemate. They get stopped on the bridge. The father, who was played by Carl Swenson, goes nuts. This isn't over, this and that and the other thing. And they say, you're going to turn these cars around, you're going to go the fuck back to your county and stay there. And one of them starts giving Clifton James a ration of shit, and Clifton James shoves a shotgun into the guy's chin. He goes, I'm the easiest guy in this county to find. You want to find me, just come looking for me. So they defuse the situation, and Clifton James' character walks up to John Little and says, good night, John. Then he says, Sheriff, and walks away. When they're transferring the prisoner from the jail to the state trooper's car, he's across the street in his trusty pickup truck with a fucking high-powered rifle aimed at the front of the jail just to make sure things don't go wrong in his town. So Frederick March, I forgot to mention, plays the mayor, the crusty redneck mayor who, is so cheap that he buys cigars that have wormholes in them and use scotch tape to tape up the wormholes. Well, he always told, Price that if you needed anything to come to him. And, there's a meeting of the minds here because the mayor has a black servant, has had a black servant for years, and at one point he goes, pour me a drink and pour yourself one because you've been stealing my liquor for years. And he goes, I know that everything that goes on in here, you take out to your people, which is fine, but we're going to rectify this stuff tonight, which they do. So the film ends with basically Little, Price, and the mayor getting in a car and driving to town. And Little tells Price, he goes, well, you know something, I'll be the deputy for now. And he goes, but I'll tell you one thing, next election, I'm going to run for sheriff against you. And Price goes, you can run for sheriff all you want. I'm not going to run for sheriff next time. I'm going to run for mayor, which causes the mayor to spit out his cigar. So it ends on that note. One thing I did leave out was that Benji did come back to try to beat up the deputy he already beat on. But Little is waiting for him and drags him back to the cell block and literally beats the shit out of him off camera. All you hear is the door close and you hear this guy getting the crap kicked out of him. So, in my estimation, great film. For some reason, I liked Jim Brown when he, since he was in Rio Conchos and The Dirty Dozen, I followed his career. And like I say, Ralph Nelson's a very capable director and very politically astute. And this film mirrored what was going on at the time. And for whatever reason, I don't know, they sort of marketed it as a blaxploitation film, and I saw it at one of my favorite grindhouses in Jersey, the Embassy Theater, on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Don't know what it was playing with, but the fact that Jim Brown was in it and George Kennedy, again, both of them were co-stars in The Dirty Dozen, it intrigued me enough to see it, and it sort of stayed with me for a lot of years. I just had to pick up the DVD-R of it because for some reason this thing, to this day, never got a decent release on VHS, DVD, or right now Blu-ray. So, definitely worth checking out. Very good film, very good performance from all involved. So, now to push some, what I would call, cool shit. And I got to throw something out here. I can't find the magazine. It was sent to me. It's called Sleaze Fiend Magazine, put out by Nicholas M.C. and John Reber. And they're on Facebook. If you probably Google Sleaze Fiend Magazine, you can find it. Great little magazine. They had sent me a copy. I was reading it, and of course my organizational skills suck, so I don't know where the hell I put it. But check that one out, but I got other ones here. This was sent to me by a guy named Colt 45. And if you're familiar with the Gore Gazette, this is the first issue of Dangerous Encounters, and it's a homage because Colt basically says this cheap and cheesy rag is dedicated to the legacy and life of Rick Sullivan. Now, this is the first issue, and if you're familiar with the Gore Gazette, you'll see it is truly a homage to the Gore Gazette. Almost the same way it was printed, only it's got a lot more than the 4 pages that the Gore Gazette usually had. Dangerous Encounters is up. We got more. We're up to, got these issues here, up to 5 issues. And I don't know if he's got a website, but if you're interested, you can write him at Dangerous Encounters Fanzine, Post Office Box number 47443 in St. Petersburg, Florida. Zip is 33743. Gentleman's found me, must have found me through this thing, but here's the last couple issues, and I'm sure he'd love to hear from fans and maybe sell a couple back issues. I mean, this is like I said, complete homage to the Gore Gazette. So that's just one cool thing to read as it falls off and fucks up everything I just piled up here. Like I said, organization is not my forte. But also, we have Exploitation Nation, which is also coming out with a lockdown issue and its regular issue. And this is from Grindhouse Purgatory's parent company, Happy Cloud Publishing. And a little bit different than Grindhouse Purgatory. I write for it. A lot of people that write for Grindhouse Purgatory have stuff in here, and it's again published by Mike Watt. And a lot of cool shit. This is Witness for the Defense. This was like basically a bunch of us defending films that other people sort of let slip through the cracks. So there's an animal attack issue coming out and a comedy issue coming out. So that's Exploitation Nation. You can get them on Amazon or go to Happy Cloud Publishing to get them direct. Another cool little thing that was sent to me is something called Gravely Unusual magazine. This is like a really thick magazine, and it's put out by Edwin Callahan, who I basically did an interview for. It has an interview with Bruce Campbell. A lot of stuff in here. How I Like 'Em Trashy, non-fiction. But this is the winter edition 2020. And this was the summer edition from 2019. And I do believe they have a website somewhere here. Do we have a website? I don't know. I'm trying to... Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm not fucking stupid. GravellyUnusual.BigCartel.com. You can get it from there. And I'm sure they have a little website. But let me just show you these again, because these are really cool. And they're, filled up. And it's really good shit. Good read. Different stuff. A lot of guys, went into putting out zines. I started mine in 2014, I believe. I don't know if I inspired anybody or not. If I did, that's cool. But, there's a lot out there, and, we should promote, because a lot of the guys that are writing for Grindhouse Purgatory and Exploitation Nation are also writing for these guys here. Of course, Shock Cinema is a mainstay. Comes out like 4 times a year. Known Steve a long time. Puts out a great magazine. Keeps it real. It's still $5. It's still in Barnes & Noble. And he's still going strong. This isn't the current issue. I'm still waiting to get that, because as everybody knows, the mail's fucked up. But, you can reach him on Facebook, Shock Cinema. It's been around for years. It's one of the few zines that stayed true to its roots. And the price is right, $5. Now, I just wrote something for this wonderful magazine here. Pop it out of the wrapper, because, man, I'd like to have an ass like that either on the cover of my magazine or actually on my face. But, this has got a lot of artwork in it. And the other one here that I got, more shit falls on the floor. The Midnight Magazine. I mean, great artwork on this stuff. Some great articles. Other guys, we have Midnight Magazine on the Road by John Schatzer, who writes for us, and a review of the Death Warmed Up Blu-ray. Most influential VHS covers by a good friend of mine, Vanessa Alacarda. Horror is a Woman. Theater Games by Chris Gilpin. How Common is the Common Task by Greg Goodsell. Let's see, Eric Wright is the editor, and Angie Wright is the co-editor and format designer. And there's just a lot of cool stuff in here. Like I said, this was the one I got prior to the new one with the great ass on the cover, and I'm in this one. I figured because it's Midnight Magazine, why not do something about midnight movies? So I got a little piece in here, as well as Let's see, bunch of people in here. John Schatzer again does the Changeling, and I believe, could this be? Let's see now. A little homage to Joel Reed. Unfortunately, we lost Joel a few months ago due to COVID-19. But it's got some great stuff, you know, a little centerfold thing there. Profusely illustrated, and like I said, all these are, you know, everybody does something differently, and it's all cool because, like I said, you know, it all comes together down the road, and I got a little card here. I can just tell you where to go here. You can find them at www.midnightcrypt.com, and you can get it at another one that's put out, midnightmagazine.bigcartel.com. You can email them at midnightmagazine@2017@gmail.com. So, and they're on Facebook too. So it's all cool. You know, we work together because we all just love the genre. And last but not least, I came across this thing a while ago. Memories of Dr. Creep, as told to Sally the Zombie Cheerleader. Dr. Creep was Barry Hobart, who was a Dayton horror host who unfortunately passed away. And I believe a relative, Doug Hobart, was also in Death Curse of Tar 2, the Bill Greffy film, shot down in Florida in, I believe, 63 or 4. I personally never got to meet Dr. Creep. He's part of the whole Cleveland scene, which you had, you know, and you know, the Ghoul, Son of Ghoul. You had Dr. Creep in Dayton, a lot of things like that. He was also involved in pro wrestling, and like I said, I believe you can still get this from Amazon, and you know, I think I even did a review. Funny and poignant, filled with fantastic stories, a fascinating look into the world of the horror host. This is a guy I wish I had sat down to and had a bottle or two with. That's my quote. And whenever I miss Barry, I'll be able to pick up this book, hear his voice. It's a treasure beyond measure. A Ghastly Ghoul, another Dayton-based horror host. So all this stuff's good, and if you know you're fucking stuck inside, you got nothing better to do, why not read something cool? I mean, we're all into the same shit, so check it out. So this is 42nd Street Pete saying thanks for subscribing, thanks for tuning in, and we'll have more for you down the road. So until then, mask the fuck up and stay safe.